Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
Well, at the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump.
We need to understand that they are already saying they're not going to accept the results in November if Trump loses. MAGA, red alert. They are admitting they are already setting up to reject the results of the election if Trump loses, and they almost certainly will try to steal it again. And so what we need to do is ensure that they are not able to steal it. Here is Kristen Welker asking Senator Tim Scott, who, by the way, in his own right, is vying to be Donald Trump's vice president. Unclear if he will be selected. She asks Tim Scott, Welker does, will you commit to accepting the 2024 election results? And Tim Scott simply says, Trump will be the next president. Not exactly a profile in courage, not exactly a clinic on clarity as to what you mean. This is what they're lining up to do.
4 years of Joe Biden versus 4 years of Donald Trump. They're really excited to get back to the Trump years. And so I expect the election to be fair, and I expect Donald Trump to be our next president.
In terms of what he said, he specifically said, if it's not fair, as you're saying, you have to fight for the right of the country. And just this week, he said that he won Wisconsin. Falsely, Senator. So again, to the point, you voted to certify the election results of 2020. It's the exact opposite of what you said and did after 2020. Why would you want to be on a ticket with someone where there's such a fundamental difference?
There is clear facts here. President Trump himself said he expects this election to be fair, he expects it to be honest, and he
actually has not said that.
Expects to win. That's what the presidential candidate should expect, and I expect the exact same thing, and frankly, the American people agree with him. This is an issue that is not an issue, so I'm not going to make it an issue.
Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
Well, at the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation.
At the end of the day, it's tough when some days look like January 6, 2021. That's a scary thing to say.
Low unemployment.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
But is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator,
you can ask as many times as you want, Kristen. I'm not going to give you an answer. Another pretext to reject the results. These people are dangerous. RNC co-chair Lara Trump said to Maria Bartiromo on her brown-nosing Fox News show yesterday on the situation with mail-in voting in the state of Nevada, you can't have ballots counted after elections are over. And they are now setting this up as a pretext to reject the results in certain states.
Saying for a while now that your priority is to ensure a transparent election. And I see that the RNC and the Trump campaign filing a lawsuit in a battleground state to stop counting ballots past Election Day. What are you doing with regard to suing Nevada right now?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. You cannot have ballots counted, Maria, after elections are over. And right now, that is one of the many lawsuits we have out across this country to ensure that just that happens, that we have a free, fair, and transparent election. So in Nevada, as you pointed out, we are saying we want on Election Day that to be the last day that mail-in ballots can be counted.
Now, understand, there's nothing wrong with wanting all the ballots to be counted on the same day. But the idea that if it doesn't happen, it's fraud is ridiculous. And it is, again, another pretext that they're going to use to say, no, we can't trust the results here. Now, I hate to break it to you. Even when everything goes normally and you have no early voting, ballots are counted after the end of voting. Let me tell you what I mean. When polls are open 8 to 8 in a certain state, the stroke of 8 p.m. comes. Not all the ballots are counted. The ballots start to be, at that point, tabulated, results centralized, and reported. So when the voting day ends at 8 p.m., even without early voting, you are literally counting ballots after the election day is over. Now, when it gets to midnight, it is a new day. But does that really make a difference? So my point here is they don't seem to have a problem with whatever state saying, OK, voting is done at 8 p.m., but we're going to count ballots until 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or 11:59 p.m. And if it becomes midnight, why is that all of a sudden fraud or a red flag? It's not. And similarly, once you acknowledge, listen, even without early voting, we sometimes count ballots a few hours and it might get to be after midnight, technically the next day. Why is it evidence of fraud if mail-in ballots are also counted at the same time? Now, I have no issue if a state says, we will have all of the mail-in ballots counted at the beginning of the voting day. No problem. That would be great. I would love results faster, even though many countries don't get them as quickly as we do. Some do, some don't. I would love results faster as long as they're going to be the right results. But the idea that the day's ballots can be counted for hours after voting is done, but somehow mail-in ballots being counted later is evidence of fraud, it's another pretext they're coming up with to try to steal this election. And here's one more example. Here is Doug Burgum. Doug Burgum is asked, did Biden win? And he gives a very squirrely answer.
Do you believe Joe Biden won the 2020 election?
I believe that Joe Biden won the 2020 election, but I also, based on the number of votes that were in, but I think that because of COVID, there was a huge number of irregularities because we changed a bunch of rules in certain places, in certain precincts, in certain states. And the number of mail out ballots, not mail in. We do absentee ballots in North Dakota. We make sure we're verifying signatures. But when you're mailing out more ballots than there are people that are actually on the registers for the voting rolls, that creates a massive moral hazard. And then when you've got unmonitored drop boxes and a bunch of single bullet votes that only vote for one candidate, I think all of us have to say, is that the way we want to have elections?
I don't know what you're talking
about. So I think that
single
2020
bullet
was a
votes.
special case.
I mean, you agree with
well, a single bullet vote is a ballot that comes in where it's very unusual to get that many ballots where someone just votes for president and not for anybody else down ballot. That's what I'm talking about. So
It's actually not that rare. A lot of people are clueless.
Attorney General Bill Barr said that there was no significant fraud that would have changed the results of the 2020 election. Do you disagree with that, or do you agree with that?
Well, again, we're talking about, what are you talking about? What happened before the ballots came in or after?
All right. So as you can tell, more of the same stuff. And of course, there were some rules changed in terms of voting. It was done legally. They claim it was done illegally. And regardless, they assume that every change helped Joe Biden. That also hasn't been demonstrated. So this all falls flat. But these people are dangerous. They're going to try to do it. They're telling us they're going to try to do it, and we have to be ready. Let's take a very quick break, and then we'll come back with more. As many of you no doubt know, I'm originally from Argentina, and one of the things I really miss about being there is the soccer and how easy it is to find it on TV. And now that I live in the U.S., for soccer, I turn to private internet access. Our sponsor, Private Internet Access, is a VPN that lets you change your IP address and make it look like your computer is anywhere in the world. So I can set it to Argentina to access the soccer matches. I can set it to the UK to access British Netflix content, much of which is really good. A VPN is useful for many things like preventing your browsing history from being leaked online, but downloading and streaming large files like TV shows and movies is one area where private internet access really shines. Many VPNs are just too slow for streaming. The buffering, the disconnects, it's a nightmare. It is super easy to use private internet access. You turn it on with a single click, you're done. Works on your computer, tablet, TV, Roku, game console, anywhere that you stream, and you can use it on all your devices with just one account. Get private internet access for 83% off, which comes out to $203 a month, plus 4 extra months for free. Go to piavpn.com/Pacman. The link is down below.